Gonna talk some board games A to Z. Remember when there was that thing and the people did the
I
A's?
thought you were freestyle.
Oh, absolutely. We got A's and B's and got games all day. What you gonna do? We're gonna say a list. Say, yeah, I got. You know, I'm gonna get there. Quick tip. Don't freestyle if you're not a freestyler.
Yeah,
go watch Harry Mack. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Not Paula Deming.
It takes many years.
You know why I'm not Paula Deming?
Why?
Because I'm Mike.
You are Mike. What's everybody? I'm Nick. We're the Brothers Murph, and we're gonna go through our top games A to Z. What kind of? We were challenged by Foster the Meeple to do this. A couple other people started with Rolling with Reggie, started this A to Z challenge. Basically talking about your favorite games A to Z. We're gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna talk about underrated games or games we think don't get enough love A to Z. So one from each letter. Games that we think don't get enough love, just to keep it a little bit different. Yeah. But yeah, so we're gonna go through our most underrated games A to freaking Z.
Zed.
No, it's not Zed.
Yeah, it is Zed.
No, it's Z.
Zed feels more like the end.
It's Z. We're Z.
Zed.
We're not Canadians.
Zed. All right, so there's only one place to start. Q. Hit it. We're gonna go with A.
Yeah.
What do we got for A, Nick?
We have Ohio. Ohio is a really good. I actually played this month. It's really
played so much stuff this month.
I know. I played a bunch of stuff that you didn't play. I sometimes play games without you.
Good for you.
Ohio is about a block party. You are putting on
in Portugal. A block party.
They're called Ohios, and so essentially, it's a block party thing in Portugal. But this is essentially the closest game to like Tetris outside of like the Tetris game, which wasn't very good. Although praise be doesn't miss. So
I'm not convinced it's not good.
But this is a game where you are essentially drafting these polyomino tiles, kind of Tetris-y tiles, and they're going to come into your block party from the top to the bottom. And you're drafting them off of this kind of central area, and you have essentially 3 actions you can use, action points. One thing you can do is turn the thing, which turns all the shapes on there, and then you can draft a tile. You have to draft at least one. When you draft it, you can't turn it as it goes down. The only way to turn it is by turning the central kind of
whatever perspective you are on the table, whatever way that tile is facing, it has to stay that way.
Exactly. So then it comes and comes down like that. And what you're trying to do is group different colors together. If you ever get a group of, I believe 3 or more, is it 2 or more? No, I think it's 3. You essentially will get a meeple of that color. Meeples are points. And if you ever have the biggest group of like green, you get the hot couple. The hot green couple comes
all the
through.
Tiles are people dancing.
Yeah, they're
couples dancing.
Yeah, the people, some people
playing music.
Yeah,
and
they're
stuff.
all at a block party essentially. And so you just want the most meeples. It's really, really fun. It's a tough game.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get these things to fit. You only have so many. In the first 2 rounds, you have to take a tile. In the 3rd round, you have to take 2 tiles.
Yeah.
So it starts getting really tough.
Gotta be efficient.
It's really, really fun, and I feel like it just went completely under the radar. It was around for a little bit and then kind of went away, but Ohio's great.
It's really fun. I think it's underrated for sure. That's why it's on the list. Speaking of underrated games, our B is called But Wait, There's More.
Indeed.
This is a game where you are basically...
It's an improv game, ultimately.
It's an improv game.
It's a party game,
It's a party game where you are doing an infomercial.
Yes.
You are the, people selling
slap chop kind of. You're selling
slap chop, right? It's going to be some random item, and what you're going to get is you're going to get a card of a random thing that you're selling.
Like a garden hose.
A garden hose. And then you're going to get a random feature that it has, because all these things are based on but it has this amazing feature. So
it's self-charging.
Yeah, and you're like, okay. So
and then you have to pitch that.
You have to pitch why you need a self-charging hose. Yeah. Then halfway through, you'll drop but wait, there's more. And then you flip over a trait that you don't know is coming.
Yes.
Because before you start, you at least know the item in the trait.
Yes.
You can take 2 seconds to think of something.
Yes.
Midway through, you get a completely random item, and this is one like that will cure your sunburn. That will cure that pesky sunburn. You're like, okay, so now you got to douse yourself with the hose, and the self-charge just gives you electrolytes or something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you have to basically, in the moment, sell this product, and the people will vote on basically which product they'd want based on the pitch that was given.
It's one of those games where it's like you can keep score if you want to. You probably don't need to.
Do that.
But again, it's like you're pitching for like 30 seconds. Halfway through, you say, but wait, there's more. You flip it over. You get a whole new thing that you didn't know was coming, and they're really weird and all over the place, and it's just really fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. It's so stinking fun.
Yeah, it's
so
every
good.
time you use it, butterflies appear, and you're like, yep,
yeah,
very, very fun little party game that no one ever talks about. I mean, but it's a good party game.
Fun.
We still have
kind of group dependent, like most party games.
Yes.
But man, if you have people who are down to just be silly like that, it's ridiculous what you come up with.
Yeah, that's B. Into C now. C is a game that has done well, but
Caverna, it's underrated.
It's overshadowed. This is to be Circadian's First Light.
Yeah.
Circadian's First Light, we actually just did a game house for, and we did the second edition. And again, it was good enough to get a second edition. It's had multiple successful Kickstarters, some expansions. But the thing is, this is by Garfield Games. It's so overshadowed, I feel like, by like the West Kingdom trilogy.
That's the problem.
Now the South Tigers
Garfield
trilogy,
Games is so successful.
Hadrian's Wall, Legacy of You, all these other games, you know?
Yeah, basically if it wasn't directly designed by Shem Phillips, and Shem is still developing all these games and stuff, these ones are developed by Sam, who works with Shem on the West Kingdom and the South Tigers games and stuff. They kind of get overshadowed by their own successes. Yeah,
because it's really, really fun. Circadian's First Light is a game where you are you're
landing on a planet.
You're landing on a planet, and you are moving around and gaining resources, but you're also working on negotiations with like the local populace that they're these kind of aliens and stuff like that. And you're essentially getting resources, trying to fulfill like contracts, which give you points and like
so you're doing
ongoing
like
abilities.
Research and stuff.
You're doing research, and it's a really, really fun game. We just played it again recently because we just played the second edition, and we were just like, God, this is so good. And the expansion's really fun too, but it just always gonna feel like it's so overshadowed by, because the West Kingdom trilogy and now the South Tigers trilogy, the West Kingdom trilogy is one of the most revered.
Two of the three are in the top 100 games of all time, and by counts is not far away.
No, and so it's one of those things where it's like, it's so revered that I feel like a lot of other stuff gets overshadowed, and Circadian's First Light's really, really fun.
Yeah.
Circadian's Chaos Order is also really fun.
I agree.
And so that is C. Yeah, not like no one's ever heard of the game before, but honestly, it doesn't get as much love as it should.
Do some more.
Yeah.
D is from the Dino-verse.
This was kind of a similar situation here.
Yeah, where this Doulosaur Island. So this came out with the at the same time as the first expansion for Dinosaur Island, Totally Liquid. They came out with Doulosaur Island, which is a 2-player card-based I Split You Choose game.
Yes.
Where you're doing a lot of the similar stuff that you're doing in Dinosaur Island. You're gaining DNA from those amber-colored dice.
Yep.
You're then creating dinosaurs and getting attractions and things for your amusement park, but it's all kind of pared down to different cards that you're slotting kind of above and below your player board, and you're doing an I Split You Choose kind of card drafting mechanisms.
Yeah.
But this game, for us, does a really good job of feeling like Dinosaur Island, but making it really quick.
And this is the simplest of all of them, including the roll and write.
100%.
Yes.
Very simplified, very pared down in terms of box size and sprawl on the table. And we thought it was really cool. We think I Split You Choose is an inherently fascinating mechanism. You'll see it pop up again later on the list. And it was one that's really fun. And like, man, no one ever really talked about Doulosaur Island. But it's like, you had Dinosaur Island over here, which is so successful. And then you had Dinosaur World and the Dinosaur Island Roar and Write. And Doulosaur Island,
RPG,
I think, was
the video game. Yeah, like
the Marvel series.
Exactly.
Doulosaur always felt like the one that would get forgotten.
Yes.
Out of all those. And I can't even say like it's wrong that is the one that got forgotten. But it is really good.
It's fun. And again, if you want kind of Dinosaur Island feeling, but in 30 minutes, this is it. The game is fast.
It's super quick.
Really fast.
You can solo it.
And you can actually fit the Roar and Write and where is it? We have it.
It's over there. We got both Doulosaur and the Roar and Write in one box, which is great.
It's great. I don't know where it is.
Peak efficiency.
Peak efficiency. But no, that is D. So now it's going to annoy me. I can't see it. But Doulosaur Island, it's really good. It's really, really good. Number E, letter E, is one you probably know is coming. This is Eco's First Continent, because people do not play this game enough.
Vastly underrated.
We've done an underrated list before. This was number 1, because I still think it's one of the most underrated games on the planet. Eco's First Continent is by John D. Clare, and it's so much fun. It's kind of a bingo-style game where you have these cards that need certain resources on them, and these resources are getting pulled out of a bag, kind of bingo-style, where you're just pulling out random things, and then everyone gets to cover up, so you get like a little sun icon. You can cover up one of the suns on one of your cards.
Yeah.
If you ever fulfill a card, you then get to activate it. One thing that's cool about the cards is that most of them, not all of them, but most of them you can activate multiple times.
Yeah.
So you activate it, and then you rotate it, and then once you rotate it, however many times that card can get played, then it'll finally get discarded.
Yeah.
But this is a game where you're building out like a central continent and water and stuff like that, and then you're putting down animals, and you're scoring all these cards. These cards will be like, put down a tree, and then for every tree in a little habitat, which is trees next to each other, you get 1 point per.
Yeah.
And all the cards are unique. They all score differently, and everyone is trying to kind of make the continent work for their cards.
And chain together like crazy combos and stuff. And yeah, it's just really cool. I love the not just like nature themed, but the way that you're kind of crafting nature and stuff. I just think it's so cool.
It's really good.
And it's like I thought we learned our lesson, Nick. We don't sleep on John DeClaire.
No, we don't. Never.
We don't sleep on John.
No. And people usually don't, but this one has gone completely under the radar. I don't know why. It's really good. Really good production too. It's great. Letter F is also one you probably know if you watch our stuff.
It's fine, fam. And it's not, I think it's like part of the reason why we think it's underrated. It's just not really available. So it's not even its fault, but it is a game that we think is super duper cool. Yeah. This is from Friedman Freeze, where you're building out the lands and kind of taming the lands first, and then building them out and building up infrastructure and stuff like that, all in the name of the Pharaoh. So the main thing that we really love is that all the stuff you build, you don't own. The Pharaoh owns it. So if Nick builds something and puts a settlement down, I can turn that settlement into a town by playing a card.
Yep.
You're buying out all these cards, and the order that you play in cards matters because it's a deck builder of a sort, but you never just shuffle your deck up. Whatever cards you play need to go in discard pile in order, and then when you kind of do your refresh action, you'll take back those cards in the order that you played them last.
Yes.
And you only get 3 for free, and you can pay money to get more, so you can effectively bury cards.
Which is advantageous.
Yeah, but because as the game goes, you're going to be getting more powerful versions of some of those starter cards, and then cards that do things that are kind of better once the kind of board is built out a little bit. So there's this nice progression through the game. There's a lot of fun stuff to think about in terms of like, I got to make sure I keep this card available. How much am I willing to pay if I just play a bunch of cards after I play it and bury that card? And try to get the most reputation possible, because that's all you get to keep at the end of the day is that reputation.
Yeah, it's really, really good. We love it. We've really evangelized for this game. I hope it becomes more available. It's so good. Letter G is going to be Gingerbread House. Talking about that. Praise be. Praise be doesn't miss.
Fail.
Gingerbread House, we kind of evangelize this one a lot. We play it most during the holidays, but you are building out gingerbread houses.
Yeah.
And you are luring in various fantasy creatures and fantasy characters like Snow White.
Chopping their heads
off. Public domain stuff. Yeah. And then you're luring them in because they're coming to eat your house, and then you're luring them in with different kinds of gingerbread.
Them.
And then you're killing them, and you capture them, but you probably kill them as well. But this is a game, it's kind of there's another game that's going to come up. It's kind of a mix between this and a couple other things.
Yeah.
But essentially, you're putting these domino tiles that are going to have different actions or different kinds of gingerbread. And you're putting it down in this little 3x3 square. And whatever you cover up is what you're getting.
Yeah. So
that allows you to do different actions, which are going to allow you to lure people. You can get stairs, which allow you to kind of like match the height, so you can put stuff down flat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you just get these really cool combos going, like you do in a lot of Phil Walker Harding games. And you just get these really good combos, but it's ultimately a pretty simple game, a very cozy game, very relaxing game. You're just kind of trying to put this stuff out and then just score points by capturing these different fairy tale creatures. And there's also like objectives you're going for. That'll be like for every like mean character you get a certain amount of points. And it's just really, really fun. Yeah. And again, as Phil Walker Harding games go, it's kind of gone under the radar. And again, he comes out with so many good games because that praise be. That it's, it just kind of went under the radar, and I think it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I almost didn't hear about it if it wasn't for Matthew Jude. And then I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, and we saw it in the store like literally the same day, and I was like, whoa, I'm picking this up, and I'm so glad that happened because it's just such a cozy, fun game with like such good combinations you can pull off.
Yeah.
Really, really fun. H kind of follows in another territory where the game's kind of aimed for families and stuff, and therefore I think kind of gets slept on by people, but it shouldn't. This is Honga from
Honga's
Haba.
So good.
Honga, and you'll see Haba kind of pop up again because they kind of did several games that are kind of more for families. I just don't think they ever really hit.
Yeah.
Because people think Haba, they think little kid. And these are for bigger kids. And Honga is a cool action selection game where you are gaining resources to fill out contracts. It's just contract fulfillment for the most part. But you can do that. You can put mastodons out. You can work your way up these stairs to kind of get to the top of this like kind of monk track and
temple track,
this temple track and trigger scoring that way. And what's cool is you have these like circular action cards that will have a certain amount of paws that are distributed in 4 different quadrants. And when you place it down on an action spot, it'll point toward 4 different actions. And where you have paws, if you have 2 paws and toward this action that gives you mushrooms, you get 2 mushrooms. And so the way that you place your actions out and which way you decide to rotate it and stuff is infinitely interesting. Yeah. In the way that you can trigger certain actions multiple times. And there's Honga in the middle you have to kind of keep happy, or they kind of jump on your stuff and start eating your food and things.
Yeah, you have to have one hand towards Honga because you're petting. It's a big saber-toothed tiger. You're petting Honga. If you don't pet Honga, she's going to come and she's going to start eating your food.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's really interesting to try to think of how you use your actions and things to fulfill those contracts. It's really fun. we always talk about it's a really interesting way to do action selection that we do not see enough of. And I'm like, take this and put it into a bigger game because the choices that you get are so fun and it's in a very light game. Hanga is just, it's super cool.
Really
and I'm like,
good.
man, this game is probably never going to get the recognition it deserves because it's a Hava game. People are like, well, I don't know, that's a kid thing. So this game's good, man.
It's really good. It's really good.
You know?
Yeah. Letter I is going to be Illusion. We've talked about this game a couple times. This is a game. It's a very small box, kind of like the Mind-sized box. And it's also by Wolfgang Warsch, actually.
Yeah.
And this is a game where you are essentially trying to put the cards in order based off of their color. And so the colors, say, for this round, it's going to be red. And on each of these cards are going to be all sorts of different shapes, words,
just
all
crazy.
this stuff in the 4 colors. So yellow, blue, green, and red. This game, unfortunately, I will say, is not colorblind friendly.
It's not.
I wish it had patterns on it as well, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I'd love to see a new version that does that.
And then basically, you have to put them down in order. And so you put a card down, and basically what you're saying is this card has more red than the card to the left, but less red than the card to its right.
Yes.
And on the back
Kinda
of the
like
cards,
timeline.
yeah,
You put it in the
exactly,
right
just
spot.
like timeline. On the back of the cards, it has all the percentage. It has like 15% red, 12% green. But this game messes you up because it's all kind of illusions. Because let's say it's all a bunch of circles.
Yeah.
Bunch of circles, right? Filled in colors of circles. And
They're
so you
all
see,
layered on top of each
there's
other.
a big blue circle in the middle, and you can see the whole blue circle, and you see a really big red circle behind it. But the thing is the blue circle is covering up most of the red symbol. But in your mind, you go, oh, but that red is huge.
It's
There's a lot of red. But
like,
how
yeah.
much red is actually showing? That's what matters.
Yeah.
But because all these things are constantly overlapping on these cards, it just messes with your mind. And it's really hard, but it's really fun. And so at some point, you can basically call kind of like BS on someone.
Call shenanigans.
You're like, nah, that's wrong. There's definitely more red than here. And then if someone calls it, you then flip over the cards and see who's right.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fun. It's, again, small game. You can play it at a restaurant, at a bar, whatever.
Yeah.
You can play it with literally anybody. It's really, really fun.
Yeah. It's awesome. Letter J is Justin Bieber's Backstage Pass.
Get wrecked, nerds.
And we mean it because it's not a good game. It's bad. It's very bad. It's just a Justin Bieber trivia game.
But here's the thing. You play this game, you try to not have fun.
You will have a
Try to
blast
not have
because
fun.
you don't know the answers, and it's really fun just to lie to your friends and turn into Balderdash and just convince people that you know it's right. It's a bad game, but for us, it's very important, and therefore it's underrated to us.
Yes, indeed.
Because it helped start off our career. So Justin Bieber Backstage Pass, a.k.a.
And
there weren't a lot of J games.
There's not that many J games, okay? Get wrecked.
Boom.
It's a great game. It's not. It's terrible.
Canon,
But
underrated.
Here's the thing. If you legitimately sit down and play this game, you will have a good time.
You will have
a great
blast.
time.
Or you will have a long time, because it'll take a long time.
It'll take
to
a
win.
long time. But here's the thing.
it can
It's a lifestyle game. You got to be about it.
You got to be. You really got to invest. In it.
Letter
Really gotta
K
invest.
is going to be Cora, Rise of an Empire.
Yeah.
And this is like a relatively well-liked game, but this game was out at a Gen Con, and I feel like it was out for Gen Con and the week after Gen Con, and then it just went away.
This might have been like a product of.
It's generic, let's be honest.
It's generic. It's generic.
It's about like ancient Greece. It's very beige.
Yeah,
it's
it's
about
very
like
beige.
a civilization. Like it's a very generic game, but it's really good. This game's all about what we love doing the most, Mikey.
bumping them tracks.
It's about bumping tracks. You got your own tracks to bump. You're bumping tracks out here. But this is a game where you're. It's got a kind of interesting action selection system where you roll dice, and those dice are essentially going to dictate what actions you can do.
You can go up to that value of die.
Exactly.
essentially.
And so you have actions 1 through 5, or 0 through 5, essentially.
0 through 6 even.
Or
There's a
it's 6, okay.
yeah.
So then you're choosing those actions kind of based off of what dice you roll, and then it'll go around like, okay, who has the 0 action? Then whoever has the 0 action in turn order, you'll take that action. Then who has the 1s? And you'll kind of go around like that.
Yep.
And you're bumping tracks.
Doing trade, doing military conquest
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Doing
You're-
politics cards, developing your civ.
Yeah, just developing all that kind of stuff. You have, again, the politics cards are really cool because they can be like one-off cards, ongoing abilities, or endgame scoring. And the politic cards really change up the game a lot.
They make the game crazy.
And it's really, really fun. And this is a game that again, we were super excited for. I feel like a lot of people were very excited for. And then it just went away.
There's certain, like we churn out new games so constantly.
Yes.
And obviously we contribute to this problem. We can admit that. You're always chasing the new thing, the new hotness.
This feels like it got buried in the new
Every year there's games where it's like, man, that should have been talked about. And then it's just like, nope, we're moving on.
By the time Essen came out that year, Cora was gone. Just gone. Yeah.
And I think it's because it is kind of a generic theme. It is a little beige. And if you've got to be so high level to stick around in the discussion for a while.
Yes.
Something like an Arc Nova still being talked about is rare.
Astonishing.
It's really hard. You have to be really, really good.
Yeah.
And Arc Nova, Cora, I think just wasn't quite that good in a busy time of year.
But it is good. You know,
I think it's really good.
Yeah. That's K. L is going to be another Praise be.
Praise be to fail.
Praise be doesn't miss. This is Llama Land. This is what we kind of alluded to earlier, because Llama Land is kind of a mix between, not completely, but it's got a lot of like Barren Park aspects and a decent amount of Gingerbread House aspects.
Yeah.
Where you have these big, thick, dum-dum thick chunk.
Dude, the
tiles
card,
are thicky.
The stock on that card.
Yeah,
good.
real thicky, thick chunk tiles. But they're these big polyomino tiles, and you're putting them into your ever-growing kind of like tableau, but you're stacking them on top of each other because you kind of like Machu Picchu, kind of like
you're up on hills,
stuff up in the hills and stuff like that. So you're building them up, and whatever you cover up on these tiles, that's what you're going to get. So that's very much like Gingerbread House
and Barren Park, where what you cover is what you get.
And then you have the polyomino stuff like in Barren Park. And you essentially are trying to mostly get llamas and then trying to fulfill these objectives. So some of the resources you can put on top is like cocoa, corn, and potatoes, I believe. And then you can turn those in. There's potato llamas, corn llamas, and cocoa llamas.
You want to make best friends with as many llamas as possible.
Exactly. So you turn in like 6 corn, and you can get a llama. They'll have a certain amount of points on them. And then there's all these objectives. It'll be like, whenever you want to have 3 of each kind of llama. The first person to have 3 of each kind of llama, you'll get a certain amount of points.
We would have a bunch of llamas all on the 4th level of your build of your tiles.
Because whenever you get a llama card, you have to take a little llama meeple and you have to put it in your
little open field,
little area, which you obviously can't build on top of. So you're also kind of boxing yourself into these weird places because you can't kill the llamas, obviously.
That'd be horrible.
And so it's really, really fun. And I would say for Phil Walker Harding, and this is for Phil Walker Harding, it's definitely one of his heavier games.
The whole like aspect of the polyomino shapes and then stacking
is
trickier. It's kind of like number 9 in that way, where it's like it's a little you got to think about it. It's more spatial than a Barren Park or a Gingerbread House on their own.
But for Praise Be, this is his heaviest game, at least that we've played. Yeah. And so, like, it's really, really fun, though. And I feel like this game is the same thing. Like, came out, people talked about it for a week, and then it was just gone. And it's really fun. I like Llama Land a lot.
It's good art and stuff. Yeah, I like Llama Land a ton.
It's good. What's number M?
We got M is Miyabi. This is another Haba game. This is a Kramer and Michael Kiesling game. Polyomino tile laying game from Haba that's, again, aiming more at those family weights, not little kids. And I think it kind of got lost in the middle.
Which is surprising because this was like Michael Kiesling directly after Azul.
Yes.
Azul had hit huge,
and I think that's a part of the problem is that, like, again, you're in the shadow of your own successes. Like, Kiesling's done many other amazing things beyond Azul as well, but Azul is a recent high water mark anyway.
Yeah.
And this just wasn't Azul, and so it was a different kind of game fundamentally. Yeah. And this one, you're putting polyomino tiles. You're making like a Zen garden.
Yeah, kind of similar thing where you're stacking them as you are in Llama Land. Yeah.
And the higher up you stack, actually, the more valuable everything becomes. And so it's really fun because you have each of the different kind of rows on your garden will have a different type of feature. So it might be like stones or koi ponds or a certain type of
boxwood trees,
and each round, you can only populate each column of your 5 columns with an item once. So you can't just hit the second column a bunch of different times and build out like a stack yay high. You have to kind of diversify where you place things. And whatever level you're building on will be multiplied by the amount of that feature you see. So if you put a thing that has 3 stones on it, it's 3 points times however high up off the ground it is. So if it's on the bottom, it's just 1 times 3, but you're always gaining points every single turn. So you're trying to build out a nice, big, flat, supported thing so you can start building up on higher levels. At the end of the game, you want to make sure as many of your features from each row are showing because there's kind of a majority there. A lot of fun stuff. But,
it's really restrictive, but in a good way. It's a good restriction where it's really hard. It's
nice
tough
and
to get stuff where you want it to. But it's really, really fun. Again, kind of that Haba family way, so right under the radar, along with Adventureland and a bunch of other stuff that we could have populated with a lot of Haba games, frankly.
I think it was probably an uphill battle for Haba to try to do, but
they're
I think
so
they made a lot of good
successful
games.
at what they do, which is kids games
and toys
that people
and
kind of just don't look to them for anything else.
Yeah, it's a shame because they do really good at it.
Yeah. All right. Letter N is going to be New York Slice.
Hey, we talked about I Split You Choose. Now we're going to I Split You Choose some pizza pie.
New York Slice is really good. It's a Bezier game where you are splitting up a pizza. You have a little 11-tile pizza, and all the tiles are going to be pizza shaped, and there'll be a different kind of pizza. Like, this is a weird Frankenstein pizza.
Oh, yeah.
You put it out,
It's a mess.
there'll be a supreme slice, an anchovy slice, a pepperoni slice, just cheese.
A couple of Hawaiians
in there. And essentially what you're doing is you want to have majority in a different kind of pizza. Each type of pizza has a number attached to it. It's like supreme is like 3, and that means there's 3 supreme slices in the whole game. There's like 10 pepperoni slices. There's like 11 cheese slices. And you want to have the most. If Mike has 7 cheese slices, he has majority, he's going to get 11 points.
Yes.
So it's hard to get those majorities, but you want to. So when you're the active player, you're the slicer, what you're doing is you're slice up this pizza into groups.
Equal to the players.
Equal to the
You
players.
can break that down however you like.
Everyone's going to get a portion, and then there's also a special order, which is some kind of special power or special scoring.
In-game scoring, something.
That you'll put onto a portion as well. But here's the thing is you then choose last. So then everyone else chooses a portion, you're left with whatever's left.
Leftovers.
So it's the absolute agony of trying to give people what they want. Like, okay, Mike's going for Hawaiian. I'm gonna put 2 Hawaiian in this thing because I want him to take it so that I get left with this one.
Yeah.
And so you have to try and give people what they want.
Yep.
While still leaving what you want. It's really, really fun. It's like a 30-minute game. It's ultimately like more or less like a filler. The production is so cool because it comes like in a pizza box.
Pizza box. The scoring thing is like an order sheet.
The rule book is like a menu. It's so well done, and it's a really fun game.
Such a well-produced game. They went all in on it, and I love them so much for that. It's really fun, too. It's a good I Split You Choose game.
Yeah.
It's New York Slice. Oh, it's going to be Origin's First Builders.
Yeah.
This is a T game of a different name, you know what I mean? It starts with an O instead of a T, but it's from Board and Dice.
It's a big board and dice game, yeah.
Big board and dice game where you basically are building out your little civ, the early days of a civilization, and you have the help of aliens. And really that comes through in kind of
just the art.
The art and stuff. There's like little alien touches and stuff, which is something we wish there was a little bit more in. And I guess the temples are all like astrology temples are going up and stuff. But this one you're kind of doing some fun things where you're getting dice and you're assigning them to different spots. And then the spots you kind of, every time you go to, they become kind of more and more expensive. So you need to use more expensive dice to go there. And you're grabbing tiles. A lot of stuff comes down to drafting out tiles to kind of put out into your little city that you build it out. A lot of stuff has to do with color, where you want to match red dice with red tiles and the red action to get the bonus and things like that. But you don't, of course, have to match stuff like that. This is one that I just feel like, again, you're dealing with the successes of like Teotihuacan and Tekenu and stuff, and Origins is not at that level.
No, it's not.
It's not to say it's a bad game, and so I just don't feel like it did as well. It also came out, I'm pretty sure, during COVID, so that might have hampered it a little bit.
And it's really fun.
But it's a cool, fun game.
It's a good for a big board and dice game. Again,
it's not quite as heavy as a lot of the other ones as well. I feel
I
like
don't
it's
think
a
so.
little
I think it's about as heavy.
Maybe I'm just super smart.
Yeah, Mike's a genius.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's good. And it's not my favorite, and I think it is one of the lesser of the big board and dice games, but it's still really good. But because of that, because the T series is so successful, it just kind of flew under the radar. It should have been Torgin's First Builder.
I know. Torgin's First Tilders.
Yeah, exactly. Way better title.
There's Till in the Land.
P is going to be P for Pizza.
P for Pizza. It's our second pizza game.
That is true. You're right.
Yeah.
Gosh.
This is a party game through and through. This is a game where, like, I see it at Target. It comes in like a little pizza pie,
it's very cute.
A little piece of pizza shaped box.
And it's kind of just like a word association, thinking quick kind of game.
You're gonna have like a topic and a letter, and you gotta be the first person to say
office supply, S, stapler.
And if you get that, you get a little triangle section, and you're gonna build out hopefully 6 in order to build out your thing. But as you build, the first 3 can be the kind of easiest letters or the easiest topics, I think it is. Then you go to the middle things, you have harder topics. It's going to be harder to think of stuff quicker than other people can think of stuff. And if you're going for the tip of that pizza pie, it's going to be the hardest possible
What's the best part of pizza slice, do you think? I think the tip.
The first bite.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. And I like a crust. I like a crust.
Crust is fine.
But so it's kind of self-balancing that way, where as you get further along and you're ahead, your job gets harder. But if you're still quick enough, you can still win out
But it's a great
battle.
little party game.
It's super fun because it's
And,
just
like,
yelling stuff out.
This
and trying to
probably
be
gets
first.
played by a bunch of families, you know, like because it gets picked up at Target. But like within the hobby, as far as like party games go and filler games, this never ever gets talked about, and it's really fun.
It's
like,
super fun.
Yeah,
perfect for like you got 10 minutes at a convention or it's the end of the night. Play Peep for Pizza. It's a blast.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's
Absolutely
really fun.
blast. It comes in a cute little box.
Indeed. Q is going to be Queens, to be or not to be.
Like bees.
Bees. This is about queen bees and bees.
It is.
This is a Bruno Catala game that maybe it's just not available in the US, but like we covered this game for Board Game Geek and we actually played it a couple times. Really like it, and I have never seen it again.
Never seen it anywhere.
I've never seen it in a game store. I've never seen it in like a library at like a game convention.
This game does not. I'm not sure it exists.
It doesn't exist.
Maybe it only ever existed in our brain.
But it was very fun in there.
It's very fun in there.
Yeah,
because it's all crazy like. This is a game where you are moving like a little gardener around a little board to collect these flowers.
Yeah.
And when you place these flowers out, you're trying to place them onto polyomino tiles essentially. And when you fill out the tile, you can then kind of place it. You kind of get to place it into your little garden, and you're building out these groups of tiles and stuff, and getting like little beehives, little apiaries and stuff.
Yeah.
And where those go, what's surrounding it will matter and score.
Yeah, you want
and so
matching colors, and
matching
stuff like
colors and stuff to the beehives and whatnot. And you want to ultimately add on to groups of the same color of flowers. So it's just a kind of this spatial puzzle game with some interesting drafting of these little flower petals. And I thought it was like really cool and really interesting.
Because the garden's moving around. You can only ever draft from that row or column that's in. So it's tough. You're like, okay, what do I want to do here? And then getting more gardens and trying to fill them out and putting your kind of beehives next to them. It's a tough little puzzle, but it's a really fun one.
And it's a perfect kind of Bruno Catala weight game. So Bruno Catala is kind of similar to like Phil Walker Harding, I think. And they're pretty family weight, pretty accessible.
Yeah, Bruno's a little heavier, but
a little heavier. And it's just kind of puzzly goodness. And I was like, man, this is cool. And then again, we've never seen or heard of it.
Never heard of it. Never seen it
ever. It's weird. So Queens, to be or not to be.
Fun.
If you ever see it, give it a go. Bruno Catala's a good designer. We like him.
It's very good. Yeah, it was a cool one. We're gonna have. We wrote remember set bet. I think we meant remember our trip.
Remember our trip, but we were also talking about ready set bet.
At the time we were talking about ready set bet. Yes. Remember our trip. We talked about this in our most.
Remember set bet.
Remember you gotta set that bet. But we recently talked about Remember Our Trip in our top 10 unique games. It was number 1 if you haven't watched that list.
We like it.
Because it's very unique. It's a very odd game where it's a competitive game, but you are a bunch of friends who just went on a trip to either Singapore or Tokyo. And
Kyoto.
Not Singapore. Kyoto or Tokyo.
Kyoto or Singapore.
What did I say? Dallas. You're going to Dallas.
You're going to Dallas.
You're going to Dallas.
Dallas, Korea.
Exactly. So you're going to Kyoto or Singapore. Thank you, Mikey. And you're trying to remember your trip together. Apparently, you were all like hammered or something.
To remember like where stuff was in the city. And I get it. You're kind of like fuzzy. You're like, I think it was over here. And you're like, no.
You're getting these tiles based off of
tokens,
these little tokens based off of this card, and you have to place them in the same orientation that's on the card, which might be like diagonally or straight up or straight down. And you're basically trying to put these tokens, which will be like hotels, parks, restaurants, shops, that kind of stuff. You're trying to put them in these specific shapes and orientations, because once you do, you can solidify that. If you put like a Tetris kind of L shape, that's like one of the hotel shapes. And once you have that in there, you can be like, oh, cool, that's right. This is where that Holiday Inn was.
Yeah, you're going to confirm that memory. And basically, there's a central board.
Yes.
And if you're the first person to place 3 hotel tokens in the range, so it's B2, B3, and C2 or whatever it is, and you check the middle board and there's nothing in those areas, you get to put a hotel tile down, which
and
now
means, made that canon.
Yeah, like that's reality now. That is canon, that is
And the
set.
thing is, on my board, I might have been putting a park there. And I'm like, no, there was a park. There was a park there. It's not a rooftop park.
You know what it was? It's a hotel that had the outdoor-indoor theming on it, like a
so
Embassy
you're
Suites.
trying to solidify these memories quickly so that you can score full points.
Yeah, you get kind of like double points for a perfect memory.
It's really weird, and it's really fun, and it's so unique, and it's a Sashi and Sashi game, and so it's not that available. I think you can still get it through Board Game Geek, but it's really, really fun. If you ever have a chance to play it just because it's so unique.
It's fun, it's cool, it's interesting, and it's a tough little spatial puzzle. S we have is Sonora. This is a roll and write where you are flicking discs, flicking discs into the central board.
It's a croak and write.
It's a croak and write that has 4 sections. And what wherever your disc lands, and you have values 1 through 5 of your discs, whatever section it lands in, you will get to use that disc in one of the 4 different boards that you are filling in, crossing stuff off on. And so there might be reasons where you want to get a bunch of discs into one quadrant. You might want to get discs kind of spread all around. And there's just kind of the fun element of the dexterity.
You're like smacking each other out of the way.
Yeah, what we like of it is like in a normal rolling, right? You'll roll some dice and get some stuff. And that's just a random number generator, right? You don't know what's going to come up.
Yeah.
With the flicking, it's basically random.
But you feel like you have control.
You feel like it. And you might be able to pull off a really cool shot. So you have some control, but also stuff's caromming off things, so it's kind of random. So it kind of does a more fun way to randomly generate
having
stuff.
that bit of control where you're like, okay, your plans might not happen because you might flick badly or someone might smack you out of the way. But you're like, no, I know, I need to do this quadrant on my board really well, so I'm gonna flick this over here. Yeah. Someone might knock you out, but that's not something you can do about that.
You can pull off a cool shot.
But so it's really, really fun. And then there's just like, it does what Rolling Rights should do, which is combos on combos on combos.
Combo wombo.
This game, you cross off this part of this quadrant, and that lets you put 3 things down here in this quadrant. Now you can cross a bonus over there.
Here. Oh.
You just start doing these crazy combos. But again, it's all based out of, and it's like between like Rolling Rights, flipping fills where you're flipping over cards like Welcome To. It's just an interesting way to go about, here's how you're going to get your RNG.
Yeah.
And then the rest is just up to you. It's just really, really fun. It's got a great look. It looks like Sonora in the Sonora Desert. So it's kind of got that really sunsetty orange pink look. Yeah, really beautiful game. And it's just a cool game that, again, I think it has done okay.
Yeah.
But like,
it's a little gimmicky.
And it's honestly very, but it's not. I think it works really well. I mean, it's gimmicky.
It's got a crokinole board in the middle. It's pretty gimmicky.
Yeah, it's
but I think it works well.
Crokinole's one of the greatest games ever made.
Agreed.
They should put a chessboard in there.
They should do. That'd be smart. That's Sonora. We've got for T, go with it right here. Tuansu.
Yeah. Here's the thing. As far as T games, I would say this is probably the least popular.
I'd say some of the newer stuff, maybe Tabanusi, I don't think beat it. But I think, again, with the T games, you had Teotihuacan and the Tekenu, both super highly regarded. And Tuansu is not like in the bowels of Board Game Geek or anything like that. But Tuansu is one that we, and Rado as well, have just come to love so strongly.
Yes.
It is so interesting. It's very much a T game from Board and Dice. So if you don't like Board and Dice T games, this ain't going to change your mind. It can be completely overwhelming looking. Because it's a worker placement game where you are placing workers based on a card you play with a certain symbol. It's very designed by David Turtzi, who made like Anachrony and stuff. That dude's brain, I don't even know.
What is that dude's mind?
But you're placing these workers, and when you place a worker, they're going to be adjacent to 3 actions. And depending on certain things, you might get to do 1 action, 2 of those tasks, 3 of those tasks, 4 or 5, 6. You know, a crazy amount of stuff. And there's some tight resource stuff where you're gaining corn and potatoes and stone. You're building buildings. And those buildings might have passive abilities that when you go and do this part of the game, you get a better version of that action. All sorts. There's a million things to consider and fun stuff to explore. But it's been so fun to play around with and try this and try that. There's these secondary actions with your priest moving around where there's kind of an action follow mechanism that goes on. I don't know. It's just so immensely satisfying and fun to play. We recently played with the expansion, which has a bunch of modules. Board and Dice, for my money right now, is doing some of the best expansions in the game.
I agree.
Because they do these module-based expansions. So it's like take and add or leave out as many parts as you like. So make it how you want.
They're always really good.
And it's always really great.
They're always really good.
I'm like, this is so fun.
Yeah, we played one of the new modules. I'm really excited to try the other one, too. Because we love the new one.
So you can do it kind of in bite-sized chunks. I love their expansion system.
See you tonight.
I'm not. I might happen.
I could be convinced.
Tuansu is so fun. And we just think for one of the T games, it's underrated.
For sure.
It's just not.
For sure.
I think it should be absolutely considered right as highly as Teotihuacan or a Tekenu. Like I really do, or a Zolkin for the matter. Not Board and Dice, but a T game.
Yeah.
I think it should be right there. And I just feel like it doesn't have... I just feel like not enough people have tried it.
Yes.
I don't think it's that people dog it or anything. I just don't think enough people tried it.
Yeah, fair. That's T. U is going to be Unearthed.
Unearthed.
We realize, I think every U game we've played starts with Un.
It's either Unearthed or Unmatched.
There's another one that was also an Un.
And Unmatched is not underrated.
No, Unmatched.
It's very well loved.
Exactly. Unearthed is a game by Brotherwise. This is kind of like, it's got some smash-up tendencies where there's these buildings, pillars, what are they called?
Yeah, they're these like buildings. They're not monuments. There's actually
Spires, whatever,
specific monuments in the game. But yeah, you're like these building works.
And they essentially have a certain like threshold to them, kind of like in Smash Up. And you are rolling these dice. Everyone has a set of dice, like a D4, D6, D8, D12,
something like that. I think there's
D10.
You have like a D4, a bunch of D6s, maybe an 8 and a 10. Or
something like that. You're rolling out these dice, and then you can assign these dice. You're like, I'm gonna assign the 4 over here because it's not as high. I'm gonna assign this like D10 over here, and you're essentially trying to collect these, and these are also gonna give you. They're like little rings, right?
These little stones. Yeah, you get these stones. Basically, if
you're trying to create rings with them.
Yeah, if you place a 1, 2, or 3 down, you're going to get a stone. So it's like you get compensated for having lower dice. Yes. Or if you contributed to a card, but I contributed the most, I get the card, you're going to get stones as like compensation. And with those, you can make these rings, which you can then slot in different things that'll be worth points, monuments, and just kind of...
And those monuments will be specifically, you need to have 3 blue hexes, 2 reds, and like that. And so you're trying to build them a specific way to get these monuments.
Yeah, so the things that you get to do in this are just interesting. The fact those stones come around are like a really viable part of the game. So if you have a low die, it's not the end of the world. That's a viable thing you can do, which makes this game infinitely better than Smash Up. Like if you want to play Smash Up, but you agree it's trash because it is trash, play this game instead, because this game is actually really solid and really fun. I like the art style and everything. It simplifies stuff. For me, where Smash Up gets frustrating is there's all these cards. Yeah. They're all really weird and specific, and there's no clarifying information. Yeah. This one strips away all that crap, and it just keeps the fun of like trying to do the most on this card.
It's got this really cool like geometric art.
It's neat.
It's really, Brotherwise always has really cool, unique art
it's not
in their
like
games.
8-bit, but it's kind of like...
I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it's very cool, though.
It's a cool game. Unearthed is really cool.
Yeah, it's a really good game. Unearthed is our U. V is actually another hobby game. It's called Valley of the Vikings.
This is just dumb fun.
This is just dumb fun. This is a bowling, essentially. You have barrels in the middle of the board of different colors, and everyone is assigned a color like green, yellow, blue, red. And you take a little paddle on this ball, and you smack the ball into the barrels, and if you knock over any barrels, you then will move that corresponding character farther and farther down the dock. At the end of the dock, there is, of course, water. And so what you don't want is you do not want to get thrown off the dock.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if Mike is at the end of the dock and he's blue and I knock over the blue thing, Mike's going to go off the dock. But you always leapfrog each other. So if Mike is at the edge of the dock and Green's right behind and Green goes first, Green's going off the dock, and then everyone else that's on the dock, wherever they are, they're going to get some kind of bonus.
You'll gain coins, steal a coin from somebody else.
You're trying to get
some sort
coins.
of thing. You want coins.
And so, but it's a fun little game. It's definitely a kid's game, but it's fun because you're like, and then after your turn, you get to set
these barrels
how you want. And so you can be like, okay, I want to try and make sure, okay, I'm at the end of the dock. I want to try and make sure Mike doesn't hit me off. So I'm going to put mine behind everyone else. And maybe
hopefully it doesn't get knocked over.
Or I'm going to separate it and maybe he won't hit it or something like that. It's really silly fun. I really like Valley of the Vikings. I think it's great.
Agreed.
And it's a great kids game if you got kids.
It's super awesome.
But also adults have fun with it too.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's just a good time. W is Witchstone. This is a Reiner Knizia game.
Combos.
That's got redonk combos. So you build up stronger and stronger versions of actions. There's like a few different actions you can do, and it's all witchy stuff. It's a fairly thematic.
We call it redonk bows.
Redonk bows. We got a shirt that says redonk bows, and just see if anyone can put together what it means. Absolute gibberish. I love it. This is a Reiner Knizia game about doing witch stuff. And yeah, it's got whatever kind of theme on it, but it's more of a theme than any of most other games.
And as far as I know, it's not just the same game with one rule change.
Exactly. So this is a game where you're going to be putting out these little domino hexes into a cauldron, a pink cauldron of Pepto-Bismol. And those are going to have actions on them, on the tile you place. When you place a tile, you're going to do those actions, or I think maybe you choose one of the 2 actions. But if you put the tile down, and whatever those icons are touching a larger group of those same icons, basically the action you do, you get to do that action X amount of times for every contiguously touching icon of that type. So you might get to do all of a sudden 5 wand actions where you're moving down the wand, and every time you move down the wand, you get to do like a different type of action. So all of a sudden you're triggering like 15 different, it's bananas what you can do.
It gets wild.
You get to like, you start off in the first turn, like, beep, and the last turn you're just like this god going full of Super Saiyan and doing all sorts of fun stuff. And it's just ridiculously fun to do that.
It's really fun.
You build up wacky combos. I think you take like 11 turns.
Yeah.
But on turn 11, you're doing 11 different turns. It's crazy.
Yeah, it gets
And
nuts.
you're trying to like put witches out and spread around on the board and go down the wand all the way and build up your cauldron.
There's like 6 different actions essentially. Yeah, it's really fun.
It's just awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome and should get more love.
It should. Witchstone is really, really good. Again, came out like an Essen a couple years back, and again, for like the week after Essen, people talked about it, and then it was just gone. It's
we like
really
literally
fun.
got it, and by the time we did a playthrough of it, it was over.
Yeah.
We're like, this is fun.
There's not many X games, but this one, honestly, I do think is underrated. And this is Xenoshift, or Xenoshift Onslaught, which is the second one. Xenoshift is a really fun co-op deck builder game.
Yeah.
It's kind of, without all the ridiculous satire, and definitely without Casper Van Dien's jawline.
Yeah, but it is...
It's Starship Troopers,
Starship
kind
Troopers.
of.
Fighting
You
bugs.
are on a planet fighting giant, horrific bugs. It's much more like horror-y looking bugs rather than like silly bugs.
It's not pleasant.
NPH is not in it, yeah.
It's upsetting.
But essentially, you have your board, and you're going to have
There's
like, I think...
100% less Jake Busey in it.
Yeah,
and I wish there was more.
There could be more Jake Busey. But on your kind of board, there's going to be, I think, 4 slots to the left, 4 slots to the right. The left is where you're going to put like troops, different kinds of mechs, that kind of
like
stuff.
in a battle line, essentially.
In a battle line. And the right side is be bugs. You're going to have bugs out there. And then you're going to go like, boom, boom, like this. And then if the bug dies, that person stays there. The next bug goes doosh, straight up. And you're going doosh, 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 like this. And you're basically just trying to survive.
You're literally surviving the waves of bugs.
Yeah, there's literally waves 1,
Hopefully.
2, and 3, and they get crazier and crazier. And then the bugs will be like, have a bunch of special abilities where it's like, if this bug is here, it'll automatically go to the back of the line. And so it's constantly
it'll attack the second person
or
in
it'll
your
keep
line
coming back or so. Yeah, exactly. So all these different things to kind of mess with your little battle line.
Yeah.
But 2 things that are really cool about this game is, and this is a deck building game where when you buy a new card, there'll be a big kind of tableau of like cards. When you buy a card, you immediately get it, which is great because you get it and you don't have to wait for it to come back through. You're like, look, I need this now because we're in this bad situation. You're going to get it right away. But then on top of that, you can kind of just give your cards to whoever. Yeah. It's really cooperative. You can be like, oh man, your situation sucks. Here, take this giant grenade. And you can just like hand cards. It's really, really cooperative.
Thanks.
And then the Xenoshift Dreadmire, which is the second one, introduces like weather to it, and it gets way harder. The game is already
the weather's
super
brutal,
hard,
man.
but it's really, really fun. It's like a CMON game. It like had a successful Kickstarter when it came out. Yeah. But this is a game that I feel like is such a good deck builder that then now just like no one's talked about it in years, and it's still really good. If we ever found it for like cheap, I would love to pick it up someday.
Me too.
I think Crook has the second one.
He does, and the fact that he hasn't just given it to us is
Thanks, Crook.
frankly offensive.
It is really fun though, but it's tough.
Y is going to be Yukon Airways. This is a game that we've talked about a lot. It's just so pretty and stuff, and it's a game where you are, it's a pretty autobiographical game. Yeah. Where you are taking tourists on plane, tours through the Yukon up in Canada. And you are going and taking them on scenic tours and stuff. And what's really fun is this is kind of like, feels like Castell in a lot of ways. Yeah. Where you are given rules. Very strict kind of parameters of basically what your plane can do. Yeah.
Do a barrel roll.
Because like a lot of the Yukon and stuff and up in Alaska and stuff as well, like it's pretty inaccessible and people get around by water plane. What do they call boat planes?
No, there's
plane boats.
Word for them. Yeah, no, they're
pontoon planes?
No.
The ones that can land on the water. You get it. The point is you got to fly everywhere. So you have very limited fuel range and things like that. Who you can carry, what you can carry. And you're going to be drafting dice and putting them onto your plane. That's your people. And you start off with limited rules, but then you can, as you do these deliveries and stuff, you can basically increase your stats. You can increase how much fuel you can carry, which means how far you can go out. And the further you can kind of go out and drop people off, the kind of more lucrative that can be for you. The more stops you can make, the more efficient you can be on a turn. And so it's really fun to be given all these rules and then be able to increase your dials. And it's a lot of fun toy factor with the player board. There's like switches and dials you can turn up. And you get kind of better and better as the game goes. You go through like a 5-day kind of work week of a game. And you're just trying to basically get these colorful dice to locations with those colorful cubes to make them match because that's their like preferred location. It's just fun to kind of break the rules of the game. Yeah. By following the rules of the game. Yeah.
It's really good. It's really, really fun.
And it's pretty and it's nice.
It's really, really pretty. It's good. And yeah, this game, I don't know, it just kind of didn't seem to hit very hard, which is unfortunate.
I think it's neat.
And finally, the last letter is Z. Not many Z games. We chose Zapotec. We do like Zapotec. It's definitely of like the board and dice games. It's one of our lesser favorites for sure, but we do like it. I like it more than you for sure.
Yeah, my thing is that there's a kind of a jumpstart way you can play the game.
Yes.
If you kind of get this like promo thing, I think it is. I don't know how
It's
available
like your
it is.
prelude for
It's kind of like your
Terraforming
prelude,
Mars.
but I think the game does need that. So it's something I'm like, we don't have it, and I'm like, I want that, and I
Because
can't.
the first turn, you just can't do anything.
You can't do much. You only have 5 turns in the game. So, and like you're going to build up and stuff. You're going to be fine. But this is like basically a T game type of where it gives you a lot of the feeling where you're kind of building up, you know, your buildings and stuff like that. But it's very kind of simple.
It's like 45
and
minutes.
Quick.
Yeah.
It's just not simple, I should say, but quick.
Yes.
Where you're building up like these little tiles that you draft into like these rows and columns, which will give you resources each round. And then you can use, there's kind of like specialty resources like priests and gold and stuff, which you can use to get tiles and things that kind of boost up what you can do on a turn. You can use those resources to build buildings. You kind of want to build up into different areas because there's 3 areas of the board.
Yeah.
On the areas, there's 3 types of buildings, and there's also 3 types of landscapes.
Yeah.
And depending on which round you're in, some amount of those things are going to score points.
Yes.
So you want to be the most in, you know, for
Yeah.
that scoring condition, one of those 9 scoring conditions, and kind of be able to maximize from round to round. So it does a lot of fun stuff. I just wish that Jumpstart was in the base game so I could play with it, because the capital actions that you do before you build are really the fun, most meaty part of the game. And for a fifth of the game, I can't do any of it.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, I should be able to do something, even if it's small.
But it's a good game, you know, and it again kind of came out and I feel like didn't make too much of a splash, but it's really fun and I do like it quite a bit. But yeah, I do think it needs that kind of prelude, jumpstart thing to it. I think that'll make it even better because you can kind of get right into it.
Yeah, just a little
because
bit.
It's quick. It does kind of have that like Civ T game feel to it,
Just
but it's
very
faster.
quick.
And so yeah, so that's gonna be Zapotec, and that is all 26 letters.
A to Z, baby.
And so, yeah, so let us know down in the comments below. What are you think? It could be your favorite games A to Z or games you think are underrated A to Z like we did. There's a lot of great games. Go out there and play them because they're really cool.
Absolutely. These are just 26 that we named off. There's obviously thousands more that we could have named for any of these letters, but those are ones that we think don't get quite enough love.
No, not quite enough.
Let us know in the comments what you think. But in the meantime, everybody, I am Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Bye, everybody.
Later days, I said it.
Thank you so much for watching that A to Z top, I was gonna say top 10, it's not really a top 26, I guess, underrated games. Thank you so much for watching it. Make sure to check out our other videos as well, and make sure to check out our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Lucky Duck Games, and Board Game Geek. We appreciate y'all a heck of a lot, and we'll see you later.